California.
My name's Barbara and I'm an addict. I got a call from someone on the program committee a month or two ago, and they asked me if I was coming, and I said yes, and they said, would like for you to do a workshop, and I said fine. They said, would like for you to do one on self-acceptance. I said fine. And I got off the phone and I thought, what's that about, you know? How am I going to talk for an hour on that? I mean, either you do it or you go crazy. What else is there to say? And then I called my sponsor and told her that what was going on, and she said, well, your guy's really got a sense of humor, doesn't he? That is something I've learned more about the last year or so. And, after I started to think a little bit more about it, I realized that that's another one of those areas that there's just been more revealed, you know. It's been progressive, my learning about that. But it was totally foreign to me when I was using. You know, I lived in a world of fantasy long before I ever used for the first time. You know, I lived in a world of books, and I found a lot of ways to avoid reality, you know, for as far back as I can remember. Once I started using, you know, it got even more foreign to me. I mean, I'd be a rock star and a famous author and a Nobel-winning chemist, and that was just one of my better afternoons sitting in a chair, you know. I did a lot of traveling in my head. Eventually, my using got to the point where I was just not real popular. You know, the people I used with arranged to get me 12-stepped in a club. And the man who 12-stepped me was a member of Narcotics Anonymous. And, you know, I had about another 8 months run to go on, but eventually I called the hotline and got into these rooms. It was not a problem for me to say, my name's Barbara and I'm an addict. I knew I was an addict 20 years ago and would have been happy to tell you that if you'd been somebody I trusted. I thought if you had the benefit of my superior intelligence, you would have been an addict too. So that, for me, that was not the deal. But when I looked at the first step and saw that this was about being powerless over my addiction, that was a little different. And that was not real easy initially, you know, because I didn't see that I was powerless over my addiction. I thought that I chose to be an addict, you know, and that I chose to use all those years. That was where I had to start with the honesty that we talk about in every meeting, in the readings, that I had to take an honest look at my using and what it had been like, especially the last few years of it, you know. I had that magic thinking that would take me back whenever I thought of using to ancient history. And, you know, when I started to get honest with myself, you know, I could remember using chemicals that I didn't like. You know, the better they worked, the worse I was going to hate it. You know, but it was sort of like anything to get off this natural. And using when I knew it wasn't going to do anything, no effect at all, but it made me feel a little bit better just to use. You know, helped me try to sit still inside my skin for a little while. I had to, you know, stop remembering a lot of nonsense out of the 60s and make sure I remembered standing at the kitchen sink and drinking the baby's cough medicine while I listened to him struggle to breathe. And I could see that I was powerless. There was a lot of freedom in that. It explained so much about my behavior. Things made sense that didn't make any sense before, you know. It's like every surrender I've come to in this program, it was hard to do But once it had gotten done, there was freedom there. That was like the main deal for me for a while. And I got clean in the Midwest. We do first birthdays in a special way there. They make quite a big deal out of them. And on your first birthday, you're expected to get up and kind of tell your story. They give you half an hour or however long it takes. And as I was coming up on my first birthday, I realized that I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to talk about that stuff. I'd included all of it in my first, fourth, and fifth step, and it wasn't anything that was really eating my lunch, but I'd sort of divorced myself from that woman, and I didn't share a lot about what it used to be like or who I used to be in meetings, and I was just getting further and further away from it. But I knew I was going to have to talk about it because that's just what you did. That's the way first birthdays went. And I talked to my sponsor about it, and she said, if you don't remember the last time you used, you probably haven't done it yet. That took some more work, and I had to work on being able to forgive myself and getting to a point where, yes, it really did take everything it took, to get me in these doors, and that really was okay. Some of that happened from the therapeutic value of one addict helping another that I found out when I was trying to share with someone who was newer than I was. It got okay, and I could share those things, and that I didn't need to run from that. I didn't ever have to do those things again, and that I wasn't responsible. I have a disease. I'm responsible for my recovery. I'm not responsible for my disease. I realized, sometime in my second year with a lot of help that I really hadn't taken the first step. I'd admitted that I was powerless over my using, over drugs, but I hadn't admitted that I was powerless over my addiction. Not over the addiction as the basic text talks about it, not over the mental obsessions and the spiritual aspects of self-centeredness. I was still trying to fix myself. I was trying to remove my defects of character, and in many areas I was still trying to manage my own life. I was confused about what I was supposed to be about here. I was trying to become a better person, and it's another surrender for me that all that stuff I was doing in my head, even if I wasn't taking the action, I was doing a lot of mental management, and to give up on that and accept the fact that I can't remove my own character defects. I'm powerless over that stuff too, and don't have much success trying to be somebody other than who I am. It seemed like there wasn't much going on with this area of self-acceptance for a while after that. There was a lot going on in my life. I was getting divorced and going through some questions of custody, and moved to California. And, things were real busy. But when I was thinking back over what the path had been in this area, it looked to me like that was kind of a flat spot or something. But I was working up to some more news, additional surrenders, I guess. I was making more progress, if you will, on getting to know myself. And let me tell you, that's the last person I ever wanted to know when I got here. I went through a period of time when I moved to California of getting adjusted to the fact that they did the meetings wrong. And from the format right on down, And now it's funny. In California, they clap after everything. And we used to hear in the Midwest that they had hour-and-a-half meetings in California, and I got out there and I thought, well, of course they do. A half an hour of it's applause. you know. when they were reading this morning, I was all ready to clap. You know, it sounded odd that there wasn't applause after everything. So, yeah. I got into a relationship when I got in California. I don't know about the rest of you, but you know, for me, I sort of decided it's time to get in a relationship and look around and see what's available. And I had not yet turned that part of my life over. I just, you know, didn't think God knew too much about sex and money. So, and that was, you know, a learning experience. I decided that obviously my ways in that area of my life had not been outstandingly successful in the past, and that I was going to try to do it different. That I was going to try to do what the program suggests that I do in all areas of my life. I was going to try to be as honest as I knew how to be about who I was and what was going on with me and how I felt right from the gate. It's the most terrifying experience I've ever had. I don't know if any of the rest of you have ever tried that. You know, I was doing those things, and that relationship did not work out. And I was very angry. You know, I was saying things to God like, I did what I was supposed to do. Why didn't I get what I wanted? You know? And some real old tapes that I hadn't heard for a while started to play again. When I went to my first NA meeting, or the first one I went to clean that I have any real memory of, I felt the love and acceptance in these rooms, and I knew that the only reason you were that way toward me was because you didn't know who I was. If you knew who I really was, you wouldn't be like that. And because I knew, you know, from the time that I was real young, that I was not good enough. I don't care what the quality was that seemed to be needed. I didn't have enough of it. I wasn't smart enough, or pretty enough, or athletic enough, or whatever it was, you know. And as I was getting out of this relationship, all that stuff started to run again. That there was something wrong with me, or that I must have done something wrong, or it was just because I wasn't good enough. So I was talking to my sponsor about this, and she had me start writing some inventories. And these inventories were internal, I guess you could say. There wasn't anybody else in them. And it was all about me and what was going on inside me. And she told me she wanted me to find out why. I told myself those things. And I'd spent some years, you know, learning not to ask why I was an addict, all that stuff, and trying to avoid head tripping any more than I absolutely had to. But this time she wanted me to find out why. And I started trying to do that. And I came up with a variety of answers over a period of weeks and months. I said, well, I've got character defects. She said, that's right, why? I said, well, I don't trust God perfectly. She said, that's right, why? And finally I said, is that a cop-out? Is that what that is? She said, bingo. As long as you tell yourself you're not good enough, you don't have to try. And I could see that that's what I've been doing. I've been playing that tape about not being good enough, and then I didn't have to try. You know, just another part of this disease. There was some freedom in that, you know. Again, it's kind of a hard one to get to, but there was freedom in it. And I could accept that, no, you know, sometimes things don't go the way I want or the way I think I want at the time. And it's not because there's anything wrong with me. And it's not because I've done anything wrong. You know, it's just the way it is. And that took that one away from me. You know, with these lessons that I've learned about who I am, and it's just like the using. You know, the program works on every aspect of my life, but it works the same way that it did on the using. I know I could use again, but I don't believe I could use in ignorance again. You know, I can still do those things. I can still tell myself I'm not good enough. But I can't do it in ignorance anymore, and it's just not nearly as much fun when you once you figure out that it's just a cop-out. You know, trust me, you just really can't enjoy that stuff. At least I can't like I used to. And I was having trouble getting as comfortable as I've learned it's possible to be in these rooms. And what I had was another big surrender coming. The first 3.5 years that I was clean, I felt wonderful all the time. I mean, just disgustingly happy. And that's because I really just didn't feel anything, you know? It took me a long time to stop being numb. And what I did, if I did run into a place where I kind of didn't like the way I felt, what I did about it was I thought my way out of it. It worked real well for me for quite a while. And it wasn't working anymore. I was writing scripts in my head, fast and hard, and it was just like my active addiction. Instead of, if I can use this right, the pain will go away. This time it was, if I can think about this right, the pain will go away. And it wasn't working. And once again, you know, it's time to give something up. And, you know, it's just a lesson I just don't seem to learn. I think it's called addiction. You know, that when I give those things up, it's going to be a lot better, and I still put up a struggle over giving them up. But that was a tough one, because I had thought my way out of how I felt longer than I'd used, you know. And it may not be accurate, but it seemed like if I give this up, there's going to be nothing left between me and my feelings. That's like the last deal, you know. And if I can't do that anymore, I'm going to have to sit there and feel that stuff. I really questioned whether I was willing to do that or not. And a woman that I used to sponsor called me, and she was back on methadone. Once again, you know, the fear going forward doesn't compare to the fear going back. And I decided, yeah, I guess I'll, you know, keep doing this. It still wasn't fixing it, you know. I mean, I expect if I take a little action that I'm going to start to feel good fast, because that's the way it's been for me. And I got down on my knees and told God, I said, I don't know what else to do about this, you know. I guess if this is what it takes, I'm just going to sit here and feel bad, you know, for a while. I'm not going to take anything with your help. As soon as I said that, I started to feel better. And, you know, I could see that it was the first inkling, you know, that there seemed to be some things for me that just go along with being a human being, you know. That, yeah, there's some days when I'm not crazy about the way I feel. The first, you know, few years I was in here, I would not have accepted that. Nope, if I don't feel good, that's just because I'm not working my program hard enough. And, you know, having had some of those feelings come to life again, that's just not true anymore. You know, that's not the way it is for me anymore. And I was starting to have to come to terms with being just another human being, you know. Put the last of that stuff about I'm an addict in kind of a hips looking cool sense away. You know, I noticed that when I shared, I was actually starting to be able to share, whether it was, you know, at a speaker meeting or just, you know, in a group discussion, without making real sure that you knew exactly what kind of addict I'd been. It's been hard for me to do for a long time. And you know, a little more of that sick pride going on the shelf. You know, I was starting to come to terms with the fact that there were a lot of things about me that really weren't that different from all that mass of people out there, inside and outside of these rooms. You know. And maybe I wasn't such a special case in need of special consideration. Just another person. What this all did was wound me up writing another inventory because I had a lot of fear with giving these things up and with realizing these things about me. And I started talking to my sponsor about fear, or she started talking to me, but more like it. She said, well, you know, what do you think you're doing here? Because I had at least learned that if there's not a payoff in it for me, if I'm not getting some kind of mileage out of it, I don't do it. You know? And so she told me she wanted me to write about what fear was to me. And, you know, away I went again for some more weeks and months of writing a little bit and thinking about it, and incomplete answers and all that stuff. And I think the truth started to dawn. I was sitting in a meeting talking about this inventory, my assignment that I was, you know, not making notable headway on. And I said, you know how it is. Once you start looking at this stuff, you know it's going to go before long. And what am I going to do without my fear? I really didn't think I liked it that well till I said that. But, you know, I'd forgotten what the basic text says about no victims. And I guess I sort of thought that I was a victim of my character defects. That they were inevitable, some of them at least. And once again, you know, we went through some of those same conversations about the why was about not trusting God. And I said, well, it's a lack of faith. Just automatically, you know, I'd heard that enough that I knew that was the answer. And she said, well, you know, I'm not so sure I'm willing to accept that from you. And I had to look at how that had really operated in my life, you know. I'm afraid of doing something or of saying something or going somewhere. And you know, I will talk to you people and talk to my God and try to get a little bit better about that. And for me, it's not like my fears removed from me, replaced with faith, and then I can go do it. Like it's relieved enough that I can go do it even though I'm afraid to. And after I've done it. After I've taken the action, like with everything else. Then it's okay. Anyway, more writing, and I was getting kind of disgusted with this. Finally, I called her one day and I said, is this another cop-out? She said, that's right. I said, you mean this is just that disease again? And I learned that for me, fear's the way I justify doing it my way. It's the excuse I give myself for following my will for me. If I'm just too scared, you know, to take that risk, to do something I haven't done before, to admit I was wrong, whatever it is, you know, follow a path I haven't been down before. I'm just too scared to do that. Then what I do is I do it my way, you know. I don't mean to stand here and tell you that I was totally relieved of all fear, but, you know, the ignorance was gone, and it sure wasn't as much fun as it used to be anymore. And that was one of those ways that I separated myself from other human beings, you know, with all these things, walking into rooms, and, you know, were issues for me because I was an addict, and I could see that it's just another cop-out. I think that, and boy, there was some freedom in that one. You know, that was, for me, that was a big deal. But, I think these lessons from this last year or so, year and a half, whatever, that's sort of been what most of them have come down to, is learning to be a person, you know, and make mistakes, and not have to be perfect and have bad days, you know, and have feelings for people inside these rooms and outside these rooms, to give up being quite so hip, slick, and cool about all that stuff, you know, to get messy and sentimental, you know. And I know that when I had like 3 years clean, I could stand up at the podium and tell you, you know, anything, as far as I knew it, about me and the things I used to do and what's been going on since, and it didn't bother me. It never bothered me, you know. And today, you know, when I do those things, I'm probably going to get real choked up, possibly cry. I never know when, you know. It's just like I don't have any control over how I feel. I'm powerless over it. It's not about me fixing all that stuff. You know, once again, I was back on the self-improvement program, and I you know, had to learn again that no, it's really not why I come to these rooms. That you know, I can't do anything about that. You know, having had all that stuff come to life again for the first time or whatever, I really don't remember. A lot of times what I have to do is just walk through it. And that's okay. You know, that took a little more willingness than I had when I was newer. I was not willing to feel bad for more than 10 minutes for a long time. I didn't think I had to, and today I do have to sometimes, but it's still okay. I can be grateful for it sometimes, and I used to hear people say stuff like that, and I thought that they were either crazy or lying, or that I hoped being clean didn't turn me into that kind of a wop. And I like my life today. I like being able to have those kinds of relationships with you people. There has been a lot of freedom in it. You know, I'm still an addict. I don't mean that. I'm still an addict. And the first lesson I learned about accepting who I am is still the most important one that I ever learned about accepting who I am. I'm someone who is powerless over the disease of addiction, first and foremost over my using of any kind of drug. You know, if I lose sight of that one, the rest of this is just more of that nonsense that I used to try to do, you know, when I was out there, to pull my own strings and lose my fear of flying and be hooked like a dog. And it's been a great learning experience, you know, to come to peace with me. Come to peace with me and to get to know me. And as I said, last person I ever wanted to know. You know, to get honest that a lot of the ways I react to things and the ways I feel about things, they're not what I thought I should, quote unquote, be doing. You know. Recently it was time for me to put my son on the plane to send him back for his dad's shift with him. And we try to work it so he gets kind of excited about going wherever it is he's headed. So he was all excited about, you know, going back to see his dad. And I was feeling real sad, sadder than I did the last time that I put him on a plane. And I thought, well, it's just, you know, the feelings are more alive than they used to be. And I took a little look at that, and I saw that, you know, what was really going on was, if he loved me, he wouldn't be so damn happy. You know, that I like to think, and intellectually it's true, that we do this wonderful job of preparing him for whatever's going on in his life. But on a gut level, you know, when something I love goes away from me, I want it to wither and die. And how can it survive without me if I really matter at all? I would not admit to myself that that's who I was, you know, that that's the kind of stuff that goes on with me. And today I can, and that's okay. You know, I don't take action on it, at least not most of the time. And I just figure, you know, the higher power that I picked for myself when I got here was real powerful. I figured it was going to take that to keep me clean. And if he wanted me perfect, I'm sure he could have managed. And that doesn't seem to be the way it happens, so I guess I'm just like I'm supposed to be. You know, just another human being. And with all those good and not so good reactions to life on life's terms. Which, you know, the 12 steps and 12 traditions of this program have helped me stay clean and live with that, you know. And I still am, most of the time, one of those disgustingly happy people. You know, I used to want to choke people like me. I just couldn't stand to be around them. And, you know, I had to get over that idea, you know, of working on getting perfect, you know, or working on getting good, you know, or that I had to do something about all these character defects to become a better person so God would love me. I'd forgotten that he loved me in the depths of my addiction. What that's done for me, you know, some of my big deals about recovery are totally meaningless unless you know where I came from, and I know everybody in this room does. When I walk down the street, I can look strangers in the eye. No matter who's coming, I don't look down. No matter who that might be, I wouldn't have to look down. I can even say, you know, hi. When I lay down to go to sleep at night, I close my eyes and I go to sleep. Just like that. Those are miracles for me. Now, this program has enabled me to live just for today without using. It's given me a lot of other things that I never had a clue that I was going to get along with it. You know, it's given me a quiet mind and a peaceful heart, and I'm grateful. Thanks. What time is it? You're cutting into your own time here. We've got about 45 minutes, and I'd like for some of you to share with me. I'd ask that, this is not in the format that I'm used to, I'd ask that you keep your sharing down to 3 to 5 minutes so as many people as possible can share. I know that we were asked in our little meeting yesterday, because this is a world convention in the spirit of unity, that we use the language of recovery and Narcotics Anonymous, which is no big deal for me because it's all, it's where my recovery is. But and that we also try to refrain from profanity as much as possible. And I'd ask that you all do the same. There are a few people here that I'd like to call on. And after that, we'll just open it up. Mark?
My name's Mark, and I'm a dope addict. 3 minutes, that's a bad enough thing right there. Barbara and I discussed this briefly over the phone several weeks ago, and I don't know that what I have to add to hers, except she told me about what her sponsor was doing for her, and it sounded terribly abstruse to me, but at any rate, the longer I listened to it, the more I could see that's pretty much what I did. I just didn't do it quite that way, I guess. While I was listening to Barbara talk, I was reminded of the importance of the 10th step for me in learning to accept myself and learning to take my inventory on an ongoing basis with a a maximum of honesty toward what I did and the reasons why I did it. I was always struck by the paradox that, I guess you hear it everywhere. I've heard it everywhere. I've been to meetings all over the place, and they always talk about when I was using, I always felt like I was either better than everybody else or I was the dog of the world. And that's sure the way I felt. It always seemed like such paradox to me. And since I've been clean in NA, I've come to realize that there is a common thread in that feeling, and it's simply that whatever I felt like, and loaded or clean, I always felt different, horribly different, and different from everybody else in the world. Of course, by the time I got to Narcotics Anonymous with the help of chemicals and years' worth of isolation and sickness, I felt so different that it was an irretrievable state. There was simply no way that I could ever come back to the land of the living. And as long as I was out there, felt very grateful that I had drugs to do so that I could be as anesthetized as possible. Narcotics Anonymous has given me a way to rejoin the human race. But there's a cost involved with that. And the cost that I have found is that I've had to end up accepting myself as a human being. And that sounds kind of simple-minded. It sounded simple-minded to me when I was new. I'd hear long-timers talk, and they'd say things like, now I'm no better and no worse than anybody else in the world. And I thought, who wants that, you know? So this is an achievement, you know? Where's the money? Well, it is an achievement. I never felt like anybody else. You know, by the time I got here to these meetings, I didn't think that there was anything that anyone in the world could do for me. I tried for years to fix my own clock, and I thought, you know, I have to live in my head. How can you help me? You aren't there, you know. Oh, I found out for one thing that a lot of you had been there, you know. My experiences, the things that have happened to me, of course, have just happened to me, but it's like I heard a guy say once to somebody else that the people that I run into at these meetings, we've all seemed to have been in the same rooms, it's just in different states. The remarkable similarity of experience has always struck me from the very first. At first it was kind of annoying, but I've come to be very grateful that that's the case. I do see today that really I'm no different than anybody else in the world. I'm just a regular human being, but there is a certain amount of surrender involved in that. I've had to accept the fact that means that I'm also heir to regular old human emotions, and that's something I never really wanted that much of a part of. I've always been a closet romantic, and I always wanted to believe that I feel things and I see things just ever so much more than everybody else. He says, I know that you had a hard time. Yeah, I understand that your divorce was bad, but this is a real problem I'm talking about. They say that addicts are just like everybody else, only more so. I don't know what everybody else is like. I've never gotten to be them. But being just a regular human being means that I've had to accept the fact that I have all those little human emotions that everybody else has. I'm petty and immature, and I'm subject to amazing amounts of short-sightedness in my day-to-day affairs. I've discovered that through taking my own inventory, I found that my motives are hardly ever particularly lofty. And as a matter of fact, the lofty motives are what I make up later to justify the short-centered, you know, that I'm really running after. But that somewhere along the line, and I don't know where, I learned that that was a terrible way to be, and you shouldn't be that way. And I don't know where I learned that, and it doesn't really matter, you know, whether somebody laid that trip on me or I just wasn't listening good the first time around. But that's just the way it is, you know, and I can accept that. If I can accept my addiction, I can accept that, because I had to accept the fact that I'm one of those people who can just can't handle the way they use mind-altering chemical, whether I like it or not, ever again. And I didn't like that particular fact. I learned to accept it, but I didn't like it. And I've been able to approach accepting myself in the same way. You know, I may not like the kind of person that I am all the time, but that's just the way I am. And that when I do take my own inventory and when I do try to keep contact with God, I remember that's probably not all that bad. God don't make trash, you know. And that faith in God and keeping contact with my higher power has seen me through these little times when I think if I continue to dwell on the fact that I'm basically petty, short-sighted, immature, you know, jerk. Just the asshole. If I had to do that under my own steam, I probably would end up getting loaded again, but I don't have to today. So, at any rate, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to share? Why don't you just, you know, all start kind of taking turns, then I won't have to get up here between everybody. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mike, and I'm an addict. Admitting that I was an addict was the hardest part of my self-acceptance. And for me to accept myself, I have to consistently go through a little program I've set up for myself, and I call it my four-part self-acceptance program. For me to accept myself, I have to admit to myself every day that I can never use again because I'm an addict. Second thing is that for me to accept myself, I know I have to have a sponsor because I can't make real important decisions in my life without having a sponsor because I'm an addict. Third thing is that for me to accept myself, I have to go to meetings all the time, but I love going to meetings. I go to meetings expecting to get something out of it, and I always do. So, and this is the highlight of my clean time, is coming to this convention. I'm real nervous up here, but the fourth part of my little program is that for me to accept myself is that I have to keep in constant contact with my God every day. And with His will, I will do that every day. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bob, and I'm an addict. Thanks for describing this year. You know, I've been going to meetings and hoping that I would hear somebody describe what's been going on with me, because I've really felt like it's been different, and you, word for word, described everything that has been happening. You know, my second year I was a happy Nazi, and it kind of worked for a while, but then I noticed that there were a whole bunch of people that I was shutting out because I wasn't letting them feel how they felt, and I noticed that the more I was that way, the more people started getting that way with me. And there were occasions when I didn't feel good, and then I wasn't allowed to. One of the things you said really touched me, and I heard it phrased a different way. You know, I used a lot of different tools when I first came into recovery. And at one point, I was informed in no uncertain terms that I wasn't broken, and that for me to try and fix myself was kind of useless because there wasn't a whole lot to fix. And that didn't mean that I didn't have a disease, and it didn't mean that I wasn't obsessive and compulsive and spiritually bankrupt and all that other good stuff. But it meant that the techniques were not the important thing. And in my using, I thought if I found the right technique, it would be perfect. In my spiritual program, I keep thinking if I find the right technique, it's going to be perfect. I sounded like a Pollyanna. Life is wonderful and life is great and everything is fine, and yet in my mind, this year, I've been keeping track of just how sad I sound. So it's like, okay, 4 days out of the week, I've sounded down, so that means that the other 3 I have to make up next week, because the other 3 had better sound good, or something's not right, and it's judgment. It's just rampant judgmentalism. And experiencing that has brought me closer, I think, this year to a relapse than I had been in my other two. And that was a really scary thing, you know, because I have the hardest time it's like denial of my recovery is about the only way to describe it. You know, my denial of my disease is you know, I accept that I'm an addict and I accept that I can't use today, but now the hardest thing to accept is that I've actually let go of things. And I used to like use the absence of faith is fear as a whip sometimes. And you know, if somebody was experiencing fear, I'd just, oh well, you know, just get faith. And and now it's, for me, my higher power, it's a trust issue. It's like the more I trust my higher power, the better it works. But the flip side of that is that it may require that I not do something today, or that I just not do. And that's the hardest, that has been the hardest lesson for me in recovery, is being willing to just not do, and being willing to not be at fault. Because my first impulse is to think that when something doesn't go the way I want it, that I've done something wrong. And it ain't necessarily so. And that denial of my recovery and that unwillingness to just have character defects and stuff has it takes the flavor out of life. You know, things don't look as bright. Things don't, I can relate to what you're saying about like being sensitive, you know, to what's going on. When I'm fighting so hard to not have jealousy or not have fear or not have anger, you know, and I squash it, it's just like at the same time I've squashed my ability to see the beauty that's around. And everything tastes just kind of flat and bland. And it was so bad that my 3rd anniversary, which is going to be on Monday, has just I forgot what it meant. I forgot what it meant, you know, and I forgot the miracle that I've been given, you know, and it's only after sitting in these rooms for like most of yesterday and this morning that I'm starting to see just what it means to be here and just what it means to see all these people and what's really important. And the thing that I used my first 2 years that still works today is my higher power wants me to be happy. And I forget that, you know, but I really believe that my higher power wants me to be happy. And for me to try and change that is pretty selfish and probably isn't going to work. And somebody said that in a meeting. It was like a weight got lifted off my shoulders. Oh, okay. So I don't have to fight to be happy. I can just like be happy. But it works. It works. Thanks.
Convention. In the time that I've been clean through working the steps to the best of my own ability, I have seen progress in my own life, and certainly in the area of self-acceptance. I'm a lot more patient and tolerant, you know, with myself. I have more capacity to be kind and gentle to myself and allow myself to go through things and even accept the muck that I'm in and that I create in my own life. And I have to be grateful for that. But it's like thinking, you know, it's real clear to me that I can't think my way out of feeling bad anymore. And for the first few years I was clean, that worked real well. And, you know, I worked the steps real well, you know, for a long time, put a lot of effort, worked very closely with, you know, a sponsor. And it seems like after my 5th birthday, the bottom fell out, which I guess happens to a lot of people around here. And I've come into this different level with the steps. You know, it's like you were talking about the first step, and it's like, have I done that? Have I really admitted that I'm powerless over my addiction when I'm managing all these areas of my life? You know, sex and money, the mess that I'm making, the horror and the pain, you know, it's like, no. What is the third step, you know? Trust God? No. I do not trust God, you know, and it's real clear to me, you know, it's like I can think it, you know, I can talk a good program, but as far as I see what I'm doing in my life, you know, I see my behavior and I see in my action, and there are positive areas, but there are negative areas that have become a lot less fun, you know, a lot less enjoyable. You know, it's like Leah was saying last night, you know, awareness, you know, without action, and, you know, how meaningless that is. And what I feel like's happened to me is, you know, I've gained more and more and more awareness, and I'm really stuck, you know, with taking the action. You know, it's like there's a rebellion in me that is just overwhelming, you know, with just, I feel like I've gotten a lot closer to like really core issues, you know, that's what's happened, you know, through staying clean and working this program for the time that I have, that I've managed to stay around and stay clean long enough to get down to some things that are really deep in me, and they're things that are not resistant, they're resistant to my will. You know, I cannot through an act of will do it, and I find, you know, difficulty even in its surrender. You know, it's like I have been probably for a couple years now fighting a major surrender and experiencing a lot of pain through unwillingness to do that. And it gives me a lot of hope to hear someone who's like gone through the process, you know, and it's I'm not very happy with how little grace I'm going through this process with, but I see that it is a process and I am going through it to the best of my ability, and I see other people who are a little farther along this path than I am, have come out, you know, the other side, and, you know, are at a different point, you know, in their recovery, and I am looking forward to that. I'm grateful to be here at another World Convention. I'm grateful to be clean. If you're new to Narcotics Anonymous, welcome. You are the most important person in this meeting or any Narcotics Anonymous meeting. If you don't hear something in this meeting, go to another meeting. Go to meetings when you go back home. Keep coming back. Don't take anything, no matter what. Program does work. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nellie. I'm an addict from New York City. I'm nervous, you know. I want to thank you for what you said. One of the things about self-acceptance for me is that this year I've been very, very sick physically, and it didn't allow me to accept myself. Right away, I thought there was a lot of things wrong. She's talking about money. I didn't want to spend money. You know, I started working, and it's weird because I thought about it, and I read something in the plane yesterday about self-acceptance, and it's like, you know, being good to yourself. You make so much judgments, and what you do is you cut down, you know, the freedoms that, you know, that keep us from loving ourselves, and doesn't let us do what we want to do. It helped me because I was making a lot of judgments on myself and a lot of other people, and, you know, and it's like spiritually I couldn't keep on going, and I don't know, it's like hearing her and hearing a lot of people talk about how they felt made me see that there's nothing wrong with me. I'm here, I'm an addict. You know, I feel like I haven't left home. This is my second convention, you know, and my second World Convention, and I just feel good. I'm nervous. I saw a lot of people that I know, and I just want to thank you, and I love you, and God bless you.
My name is Irene, and I'm an addict. I've heard a lot of good things that I definitely needed to hear this morning. Self-acceptance has been a really hard thing for me. What you were saying about when you were little and how you never felt good enough, and that was the same way it was for me. I never had this and I never had that, and so many things had happened to me, being abused as a child, and it was just on and on and on. So I always felt like I was less than other people, and it was real hard for me. And coming to this fellowship, I know that I have been accepted, and I know that I am loved, and I know that I don't have to do a bunch of crazy things that I used to do. But I still have problems with this, and sometimes I'll go for months or weeks or days, and I can do that real well. I can accept myself real well. And then I'll get on this trip, or I don't know what it is, self-pity maybe, and I'll start feeling, I make myself feel real bad about a lot of things that I have no control over, things that I can't change. powerlessness. And I have to remember that I have truly been given a gift that I am able to recover a day at a time. And you people do help me to accept myself and to have some self-respect and self-esteem, and I've heard people share over and over how when they were out there they lost their self-esteem and their self-respect and their self-confidence. And for me it was like I never had any to begin with, And so today, through the grace of God in this program, I do have some, and I am grateful for that. And the self-acceptance with me is getting better. But like I said, sometimes it's still hard. And I have this problem, another problem. I don't like to tell people that are close to me, or I feel that are close to me in my life, how I'm really feeling. If they upset me, or they make me angry, or they hurt me, I won't tell them. It'll take me sometimes. It's better now. It used to take me months. Now it's just getting to weeks and days. But I wouldn't tell them how I really felt because I would be afraid that they would reject me or they wouldn't love me, And I don't like that feeling. I really don't. It's real uncomfortable, and it makes me have all those feelings that I used to have as a child, and through my addiction. There was a situation that came up right before I left Detroit, and I called up this person that's very close to me, and they did something that I didn't like, and I told them because it was bothering me, and I didn't want to come all the way here and be hanging on to this. So I called them, and then they got upset, and then I got upset, and then it was like, well, shoot, I shouldn't have said anything, but I had to say those things because I want to be better. I don't want to keep hanging on to pain and misery, and it's like I didn't want to make this person uncomfortable, but I guess they did. But I don't have to be, it's like I don't have to be a doormat for people today. I don't have to, sometimes it's like I go out of my way still to be accepted, and even being here, we got here yesterday, and I haven't been getting a lot of hugs or anything, and it's like I want you all to come running to me and hug me, but I don't want to go up to you and hug you and reach out to you because maybe you won't want me to hug you, and that's ridiculous because I know that that's what this fellowship is all about. It's about love and caring and sharing and hugs, and the hugs for me are very important. It's like I need them, and I look forward to them, and when I first got here, that was one of the things that I really, really loved about this program, and I still do today. So I don't know, I'm grateful to be here, and I know I am a miracle, and I know that as long as I keep asking my higher power to help me with this, and you people, that you will, but sometimes I forget that like everybody's saying that we're human, that I'm human, and I make mistakes, and it's okay. But if I keep making them over and over, then they're not mistakes anymore, then that's just ignorance to me. I don't know, I'm just glad that I came to this workshop this morning because it's helped me a lot, and I'm grateful to be here. Thanks.
I want to thank God and the members of NA for my recovery today. And this is a very good workshop because self-acceptance to me was very difficult, and now that I realize it, for me, I had to admit that I was powerless, and I couldn't pick up the first one. And coming into Narcotics Anonymous, you people helped me to understand the first step. And then they told me that accepting yourself is not going into the supermarket and buying acceptance. You have to earn that a day at a time, and for me, my recovery starts when I open up my eyes in the morning, I might start off with the serenity prayer, and or I might forget, and I might say it in the course of the day, about 12 o'clock, whenever it dawns on me, to give thanks to my higher power. Because I know for me that I couldn't do this by myself. I tried my way didn't work. My best thinking got me in here, and accepting the fact that I'm an addict and I can't pick up the first one doesn't make me a bad person, And I know that recovery starts and it ends with me, you know. I'm learning to be a good listener, you know. I'm learning to accept other people's views. I'm learning to just how to behave, you know. I want to be loved, and I don't know if I really love myself, but I know I like myself today, you know. Loving yourself is a process, you know. I hear people say I'm very, you know, I love you, I love myself, you know. For me, I'm just learning how to like myself a day at a time, you know. I'm coming up on 3 years. I'm less than 90 days away from 3 years, and a day at a time, it hasn't been easy. But thank God I didn't have to do it by myself. You know, I want to do a 4th step because I want a clean house. But you told me if I come in here, I grow fast, I go fast, you know. You can come in here, get too much too soon, and bug the fuck out. Excuse my language, but, you know, we get greedy, you know, and I've been blessed a day at a time. And I know that I can't keep it. I got to give it away because I was going to sit there. But, you know, everyone in here has a message. You know, it's not easy to get up here, you know. And I'm just so happy that my high power blessed me to make it to this World Convention, and God bless you all. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Peter M., and I'm a recovering addict. Very grateful to be here sober and clean through the grace of God and beautiful people. Self-acceptance. I know that's something I struggle with from time to time. Have no problem with understanding that I'm an addict in recovery. I understand that. But for the very reason that I began to use with in the first place is my human condition. Because that's why I started using. I didn't want to deal with being human. I wanted to be cool and hip, fatal cool, that terminal hipness. Didn't want to feel. And as someone said, as we begin to get in recovery and we begin to experience joy, we increase our level of experiencing joy. Also, we increase our level of experiencing pain. I know for me, I must not be too judgmental of myself, at my own imperfections, at my own human condition. I too vacillated between feeling, well, I was much better than or much less than. And I'm learning a day at a time to accept myself more through working the steps, through coming to meetings, and through sharing with you. I had an experience here at the convention where I went through some pain because someone wasn't doing what I wanted them to do. It always causes me pain. And I intuitively knew I went and shared that with another member, and I got the feedback that I needed, and I was able to get a better understanding not to allow someone else's behavior cause me to feel bad about me. And that's what was happening. That was disturbing me quite immensely. And I went on a guilt trip. I should have made a better decision. You should have known better, blah, 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 blah. And, but I'm feeling much better now, much more accepting of Peter, the recovering addict, the human being, not better than, not less than, but okay for today. I'm very grateful that I was able to come to the convention because I had a lot of feelings about that. This is my first World Convention too. Whenever I, since being in recovery a few 24 hours, do new things, there's fear. I heard someone talking about the fear. I don't know, someone said not trusting God, and I almost said, yeah, that's me. I don't trust God, but sometimes I do trust God. I can remember instances where I've trusted His judgment, where I've had some faith. I think I need to understand there I won't be perfect either. Sometimes I will have more trust, there'll be times that I won't. But I'm glad I came. Just to meet so many addicts from all different parts of the world has been a very joyous experience for me. I've met people from Aruba, Alaska, and I've always wanted to be part of something. You know, I use a lot of drugs trying to be a part of. And today to know that that in fact is a reality, that I am very much a part of something very big and very positive. And I'm just glad that I'm here, glad to see each and every one of you. And needless to say, please keep coming. It gets better. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Joy, and I'm an addict. And I can't believe I'm doing this, you know. I don't know, everything just hit so close. You know, I had 5 months, and what that guy said about you know, you grow fast, you go fast, is weird. Because I had 3.5 months at one point, and I thought like I knew everything, and I went out for no reason, and that just hit, you know. And now I don't know anything, and I have a real hard time accepting that. Like, I was listening to the people, and I heard a lot of good things, like, you know, just about how things like took time, because I'm real impatient, and like I get into thinking I'm very unique, and not in a good way a lot of times. And this just has been real neat. You know, like, I was real intimidated when I first got to this convention because of all the people, and I didn't want to go up and hug anyone, and someone took me and said, we're going to teach you how to socialize at a convention. You know, and they just took me around and started introducing me to like hundreds of people. And I don't know, by today I'm comfortable. You know, I didn't go to sleep at all last night, and it's like, it was like healthy, like just talking to people and like getting to know people. And it's great. Like, it's a different way of life. And it was so funny because I was thinking like, yeah, like I'm always trying to fix. I'm always trying to make myself different, you know, a better person. You know, always trying to like figure out ways of like how to change and how to do things. Because, I don't know, I never liked myself like when I was little, and now I'm starting to, slowly. And, but I'm always like meddling in everything. Like, this week, I did a lot of meddling. You know, I moved out of my parents' house, started school and started a new job, and it was like real overwhelming. And I thought like I should be able, I didn't expect any feelings, and they hit real hard. And I've gotten some answers to what I have to do when I get home so that it's not so unmanageable. You know, but it was weird, like I went through a lot of pain, or if I let myself, I'm going through some pain, but I didn't want to use, and I didn't want to drink, I didn't really want to escape, you know, because I knew like if I got everything I get through, I become stronger. And I started praying, you know, again. It's like the spiritual, I always believe there's someone with me, and I always believe that I need something to believe in besides myself now. Yeah. But it's like when I pray, I always feel better, and I always feel more sure of myself. But then when I get the confidence, I stop praying, and that's something I have to work on. And I'm just real glad to be here, and it's an excellent convention. Thanks.
I'm George, and I'm an addict. I don't believe I'm up here. But I want to do some things different at this convention. I want to quit playing it safe, you know, and sticking, hugging the people I know. I want to meet a lot of people, because that's what we're here for. You know, too many times I played it safe and found myself in isolation and feeling lonely. I don't like those feelings. I can say today, thanks to this program, all you people, and the steps, and a higher power, you know, one I made a trade-in on, the one I had when I came into this program wouldn't work in this program because he wanted to punish me. But I can say that today there's no other person I would rather be. I want to be George Flum, a recovering addict in this fellowship, you know, and that's progress. Because like Barb was saying, and a lot of other people were saying, I lived in a dream, you know. I wanted to be someone else. I refused to be me, and I refused to grow up. You know, every book I ever read, I tried to, you know, dream about being the main character, the hero, whatever. You know. In this program, and you know, finding a higher power and working these steps, it's just okay to be me. And I'm glad, you talked about those cop-outs. I see them in my behavior, selling myself short, not finding myself worthy of the higher power's gifts. And that's bull, out and out. It's and more will be revealed, and beyond our wildest dreams, and that is absolutely true. It's really good to be here. I've never been in this town. This is my second world, and this is, I don't know, 6th or 7th convention. I want to do things different. Playing it safe wasn't getting me anywhere. But at night when I pray, the higher power I have today, His love is so unending that a question of forgiveness is, absurd, because before I've, done these things, I have to forgive myself. I have to accept my humanness each and every day. And a lot of that comes from the 10th step, daily maintenance. And there was a long period in my recovery, about 1.5 years, where I was restive. And I remember reading something past month about if you remain in a certain spot for so long, like the way the earth is, frictions and things, pressure builds up, and that's when change is possible. Something gives. Well, something gave, and I found joy from vigorous working of the steps and involvement in this fellowship and prayer. I like what you said about fixing, I'm always trying to fix me, improvement, self-improvement. Maybe today, I can just say, I'm okay. Thanks for letting me share.
My name is Amy and I'm an addict. Hi everybody, and thanks a lot, Barbara. I really identified a lot with what you said. I am somebody that uses self-pity a lot to hide behind, and I kind of realize, what a cop-out it is. I always wanted, I guess, somebody to rescue me. I had this tragic image of myself as a loner in a tragic life, and I kind of realized, I wasn't liking it, and nobody else was noticing. So, I had to do something about it. And then I thought, if I feel bad enough about myself and show it, then someone's going to come break my door down and drag me out and take me to the meeting, and that never happened. I had to open up the door and go out. And what I realized was from the first day I walked into this fellowship, I had been rescued. It's already here, it's already been given to me. And I have to put down the pride and walk out the door and reach out. I think, for me, I lived a life, I hated myself, I just hated myself. And every thought in my head when I was using was negative. And I came into these rooms and I heard about self-love, and I said, how do I learn to love myself if I hate myself? And I used to look at the steps and I'd say, where do they say about love? I didn't understand. I couldn't find it. And I had about 8 months clean. I went to my first convention, and I remember standing in the closing meeting holding hands, and I felt this incredible feeling come over me, which I looked to the person next to me. It was this guy that I knew, and I thought I must be in love with this guy. I didn't know what happened. So I went out to dinner with him, whatever. It got really weird, and I realized it wasn't him at all. It was a new feeling that I had never experienced before. Took a lot of explaining, but and then but I was still, it was like every day I would go to work, and it was like every night I found myself coming home and saying, God, I did it again, I did it again, and I kept beating myself up. And my sponsor told me, every day to write down 3 things I'm powerless over that day, and at least 3 ways I was taken care of. And after 30 days, what I began to realize was when I would wake up in the morning, I'd set this agenda out for myself. Today, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to act out at work, I'm not going to get angry, I'm going to try to do this, I'm going to be loving, and I'd get home that day and I wouldn't live up to it, and that would cause self-hate. And I began to realize that I had this whole agenda for myself, that I'm going to love myself when I get the right haircut, when I lose the amount of weight I want, when I become a nice person, and I had this whole thing set up, and I could never live up to it. And I also realized that I did this with other people. I never believed or felt that anyone loved me because I never would show them the real me. They were loving something that I knew was false. And so I began to learn about self-love, and that to me is self-acceptance. And I see today that the steps are, for me right now, working on removing all the obstacles between myself and that love that I can experience with everybody else and for myself. And I too look up at people up here talking in this microphone and say, I can't do that. And you know what? It's like, I'm going to do that. And that's what I did. So thanks a lot for everyone for being here. I love y'all.
I'm Cheryl. I'm an addict. Hey, family. I'm so glad that I've finally at the point where I can take a little bit of direction. My sponsor sent me here, and I heard exactly what I needed. I was thinking of a lot of different things about self-acceptance, as you shared, and as a couple of other people have shared. And for me, the foundation of the program is acceptance of who I am and what I'm all about, and also the fact that I'm human. But beyond that, in my humanness, I can't afford to use it as an excuse. Okay, so I'm human, but that doesn't give me the right to go out to make some of the mistakes that I've made all my life. One of the things that I saw myself do real recently, I got to share at a little community mental health center about this program and this fellowship. And for a long time, I'd been talking about what kind of family I had, but I'd only talk about it one-on-one, individually with people. And I noticed when I got up and I started talking about where I had come from, in this meeting, I said, I come from such a nice family. I grew up so nice. And that was such a lie. I mean, I didn't grow up nice. It wasn't nice at all. It was real hard and it was real painful. And it's something about myself that I was unwilling to accept or unwilling to look at. Maybe if I held up to everybody, held up a face that said, I'm okay and I came from a nice family, then you would love me. And it was real important for me when I realized that I was doing that to be able to look at a group of people and say, that's not who I am. This is who I am, and I'll live with that. Heard somebody sharing about being in the 5th year or the 6th year of their recovery, and that's where I am today. And one of the things that's happened in my life is that I'm finally beginning to accept the gifts that the program has given me. This has been the most difficult year because it just is. For me, it just is. I've heard my sponsor share that this sometimes is the year that either makes us or breaks us. And I almost lost my son this summer. And for me, I was catapulted through the most difficult part of my recovery. And for me, God, the Spirit that I understand gives me exactly what I need. And sometimes it has to be a Mack truck. And for me, the Mack truck was my son's life. And it's okay for me today to accept and love me enough that he can perform miracles. I mean, absolute miracles in my life through the power of the people in these rooms. And I would not have been able to accept that 5.5 years ago. It would not have been okay to believe or to have faith, a lot of fear, but to have enough faith that God's going to take care of me no matter what happens, and that I don't have to use my humanness as an excuse to fail. Being human for me and being an addict means that I'm the greatest creature on the face of this earth. I am absolutely the most perfect thing on the face of this earth. I have the ability to love, the capacity to feel, and to reason. And maybe the greatest thing that I'm realizing is that I do have the power of choice, and no other animal or whatever has the power of choice. And I like to be able to think that I have the ability to accept me for exactly who I am, but to be able to change me into whatever it is I want to be that's true and right for me. And I love y'all, and it's real important for me to be here today with you people, believing that this stuff still works, and that it is okay for me to be here, and that I too qualify. I love you. Thank you.
We're out of time. I'd like to thank you all for making it a good meeting for me. If you're new here, I'd like to make sure you hear what I heard at my first meeting of Narcotics Anonymous. You don't have to live that way anymore, and you don't have to feel that way anymore, and you don't ever have to use again. Don't take anything. Go to a meeting. I'll turn it back over to the chairperson to close for us.